On the very day that Nelson Mandela died, the premiere of a new film about his life opened in London. Amazing coincidence. Playing the lead in Long Walk to Freedom is one of our biggest stars, Idris Elba. He's from East London. He made his name in America as the hoodlum Stringer Bell in the cult series The Wire. Back here for the BBC, he's been a moody and complex copper in Luther. When I met Idris Elba, he told me how his own father, who also died recently, had informed his portrayal and understanding of Nelson Mandela.
I was certainly aware because of my dad. He's not so much political, but he was a real sort of people's force, you know, sort of a trade unionist, and he was always, you know, sort of championing Mandela.
And so he was in your mind when you were playing Mandela?
Absolutely. My dad was 76 when he passed, but he was the only man I knew at that age who sat a certain way, and I sort of looked at him and then thought, well, without having met Mandela, that was how I was going to start to build him. So I could so relate with his energy.
I have cherished the ideal of a free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
The sentence will be life imprisonment.
Amanda!
And what about the voice? Because your family are from West Africa, not South Africa. You have to speak Xhosa.
Africans tend to sort of colour their English in a very interesting way, where almost everything that Africans say sounds noble. So I took that as a frame base. You know, my dad speaks much like that and very eloquent, uses great words, and so I used that and then sort of studied Xhosa and you know how that affects the English language.
It's far from, as it were, the caricature of Mandela voice. You pull it down a little bit rather than pushing it up.
It's an interpretation, you know. The audience are asked to take a big leap of faith by looking at an actor that looks nothing like the very well-known man. So, you know, I wanted a voice that sort of brought them close to the character, but not, you know, try and put...
An incredibly difficult job, because for millions of people, younger people, this will be how they remember and see Mandela. This film will be how they know the man, as it were.
Yeah, it seems that way, and which I'm very proud of. I think we all are as filmmakers, that this film actually holds that sort of, you know, ultimate story of Mandela. I'm proud of that, yeah.
A lot of the film is really about his relationship with Winnie. The film portrays her as a very, very badly wounded character. I don't know if she's seen the film, what she thinks about it.
She has seen the film, and I think, you know, ultimately I think this portrayal of Winnie actually is probably closer to the truth than any other film that's been done of her life, because it does show sort of the journey that she went from, sort of this sweet woman at 22 years old to this very sort of hardened, you know, revolutionary, if you like. Yeah.
And did Nelson M. himself ever see the film?
Saw parts of the film. Yeah, I'm not sure if he saw the whole film, but I know he saw parts of it.
And so when Nelson Mandela viewed Idris Elba, what do you know anything about his reaction to it?
Well, there was one scene in particular at the end of the film where Mandela is, well, I am walking up the Vale.
Where he came from.
Yes, where he came from, and Mandela thought that was him. He was like, well, how did you do that? How did you? I don't remember walking there.
People learn to hate. They can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart.
It's the story of somebody who has a very, very dark period in his life, very grim periods in that. A lot of people would look at your life and say that you've just been showered with all the good things, a cornucopia of good fortune, wonderful parts, you know, the whimpering of women every time you pass through a room from either side, etc. Has your life been that easy?
No. I mean, I'm a career actor. You know, I started at 16. You know, I got my first professional job at 19, and yes, I've worked. I've been very fortunate, but I've had moments where it's been very hard.
You had to leave Britain, I think, at one point because you felt there weren't the parts for black actors on British television.
No, that's not true. I did work here. I just wanted to get into a bigger pond, if you like, and America had that
And
appeal.
You sure did. You landed in The Wire, which is about the biggest pond that American television has produced yet.
I'm going to tell you what you do. What day is it today? Friday? What happened on Friday?
Payday.
Not this Friday.
Why not?
No. What you going to do, you going to call him like you going to pay him? And then you crack him. You tell him you're not happy.
When The Wire began, that character wasn't written up as much. And I think David Simon saw the chemistry between all the characters in the street level Baltimore.
He's almost like the father figure for the streets for a long time.
Right, exactly.
He gives these big speeches.
Yeah.
How much did that role affect Luther? Because again, a very morally compromised, complicated, rich role, been hugely successful here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got Luther if I hadn't done Stringer Bell, because that was the one the producers really wanted an actor to play, a sort of complex detective.
Have you chosen? Yes. Then say it. Say a name. Say it now!
After Luther, there can be nobody who says there's poor writing in British television, or there isn't enough good writing, because the writing is sensational.
It's not about just writing for black characters or white characters, you know, it's about writing good, relatable stories that fit into our, you know, our culture, and that's what that's what good writing has always done for the BBC and television in this country.
You're incredibly driven. Was there a sort of low moment when you thought, I'm going to show all these people, I'm going to show them what I can do, that's kept you going ever since?
Since playing Mandela, you know, I've sort of figured that there's a lot, there's so much I can do. You know, I have this beacon that's sitting on my head, and, you know, there's some way to sort of point that beacon towards change and helping others. I'm so aware of what I can do now. I'm sort of using that analogy of a beacon, but, you know, there are people that are just a little lost and not sure what way to go, and I think, you know, following, not my example, but following the idea that you can come from wherever you want in the world and go to where you want to go.
So do you see some kind of mentoring role coming out of the Mandela experience? Are you going to go and be talking to young people in East London, or what?
I mean, that's something that I've done over the last 4 or 5 years, especially with the Prince's Trust. I've been working with...
Who helped you when you were starting out?
They did, they gave me a check. And yes, I'd like to do more of that. I definitely would like to do more mentoring and, as they say, give back.
Idris Elba.